Y'all know what it is. Walking like we talking.
We're going to discuss World War One.
According to this news that I'm reading here, we have the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, which was directly triggered by the assassination of the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife on 28th June 1914 by Bosnian revolutionary Gavrilo Princip. That's you from that point. But where's your paper at?
No,
Where's your
I'm not
paper?
saying.
Alliances were huge. Is the Dr. Pepper okay over there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
To inform y'all who don't know what an alliance is, it's an agreement made between two or more countries to give each other help if it is needed. When an alliance is signed, those countries become known as allies.
Watch your attitude.
Now,
Baby, it got messy. A number of alliances have been signed by countries between the years 1879 and 1914. These were important because that meant that some countries had no option but to declare war on their allies.
delegates from Britain and Austria, Prussia, and Russia winning, deciding upon a new Europe that left both Germany and Italy as divided states. Strong nationalist elements led to the reunification of Italy. In 1918 and Germany in 1871. The settlement at the end of the Franco-Prussian War left France angry at the loss of Lorraine to Germany and keen to regain their lost territory. Large areas of both Austria-Hungary and Serbia were home to different national groups, all of whom wanted freedom from the states in which they lived.
And we're done.
As I'm reading from this news, we do have the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, which was directly triggered by the assassination of the Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand and his wife on June 28, 1914, by Bosnian revolutionary Gavrilo Princip.
This was important because countries had to declare war. And it was very, very messy.
And it also led to the United States join the war.
Then there was imperialism. Imperialism is when a country takes over another country, but the country that takes over the country is more stronger than that country.
So basically, by 1900, the British Empire extended over 5 continents, and France had control of large areas of Africa.
Then we have militarism. It means that the army and the military forces are given a high profile by the government.
Now we have militarism. Militarism means that the army and military forces are given a high profile by the government. The growing European, as I'm reading here from the news, division had led to an arms race between the main countries. Cut. Delegates from Britain, Austria, and Prussia, and Russia, the winning allies, decided upon a new Europe that left both Germany and Italy as divided as states. Strong nationalist elements led to the reunification of Italy. In 1861 and Germany in 1871, the settlement at the end of the Franco-Prussian War left France angry at the loss of Lorraine to Germany and keen to regain their lost territory. Large areas of both Austria-Hungary and Serbia were home, as I'm reading from this news, to different nationalist groups, all of whom wanted freedom from the states in which they lived.
Oh, hey girl! Yes, Deja. I need some documents about the mobilizing the war articles. Can you send that to me? Oh, yes, sis. That would be great. Okay, bye, girl.
Hello, welcome to Eric's Talk Show. Today I'm going to ask my two guests today here a few questions. So first, I would like to ask, how did the U.S. mobilize for war?
Well, I mean, the U.S. enhanced the Army draft already, and at that time of the war, the Army was relatively small and had some work to be some work to be before entering the war with Europe, and so then the American troops had to be trained to fight.
Good. And I have one for you, man. All right. So, can you explain me exactly what the Selective Service Act was?
Well, U.S. Congress passed the Selective Service Act on May 18, 1917, which gave the U.S. president the power to draft soldiers. And what the Allies desperately needed was fresh troops to relieve their exhausted men on the battlefields of the Western Front, and the U.S. was not immediately able to provide. Also, despite Wilson's effort to improve military preparedness over the course of 1916, at the time of Congress's war declaration of the U.S. had only a small army of volunteers, which was about 100,000 men, and that was no way trained or equipped for the kind of fighting that was going to happen in Europe.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Sarah. What was the War Industries Board?
Okay, so basically it was providing the Army with ammo and with weapons, but in detail, it basically was one of the first of the United States government agencies established during World War I. So in that, the War Industry Board was created in July 28th, 1917 to coordinate the production of war materials and purchase of war supplies and get everything that they needed or whatnot. And at first, President Woodrow Wilson, if I'm saying his name correctly, was reluctant to give the War Industry Board much authority over the economy. But this changed in March 1918 when Bill Brad Birch, I don't think I said his name right, but as a Wall Street stockbroker and appointed to run in. So then the WIB encouraged companies to use mass production techniques to increase effectively and eliminate waste by the sanitation of products.
Okay.
So,
Now, I would like to ask, how did the U.S. pay for the cost of the war?
In 1917 and 1918, the U.S. government raised money to help finance the war by selling Liberty bonds, which were named to appeal to patriotism of the Americans. Liberty bonds were conceived by the Secretary of the Treasury, William Gibbs McAdoo. By buying the Liberty bonds, Americans were loaning the government money. The U.S. government agreed to repay the money plus interest in a specified number of years. Victory bonds were issued after the war ended. To ensure the banking system was not harmed, the interest rates paid on Liberty and Victory bonds were lower than those paid by the banking institutions. And by the end of the Great War, the U.S. government debt was more than $25 billion.
Okay. Last question before I let you guys leave. What was the use to influence people to support the war?
So the Committee on the Public Information was basically using the propaganda to influence people to support the war. And it was established on April 13th, 1917 and headed by George Creel. And the CPI provided propaganda during World War I to rally the support of American citizens for all aspects of the effort. Presented by Wilson, considered the public support to the entire wartime. Information in the propaganda provided the committees of the public information, which was the CPI, and used it in many different forms such as poster, pamphlet,